an original narrative, created especially for Shadows of Love. The rain fell like judgment on Ava's shoulders as she stood beneath the bus shelter, watching her last hope flash out of service before disappearing into the storm. 5 miles stretched between her and her sleeping daughter. Each step a reminder of how close to breaking she truly was. When the black car slid to the curb, sleek, powerful, out of place in her neighborhood, she told herself to walk away. But the man inside, with eyes that held both danger and something unexpectedly gentle, spoke just one word that shattered her resolve: safety. As she woke in silk sheets instead of ashes, as she discovered the photograph of a woman who could have been her twin, as bullets shattered the night, while she counted her daughter's heartbeats in a fortified room. Ava would wonder if safety was just another kind of prison, or if, in the arms of a man who commanded an empire of shadows, she might finally find the one thing she'd stopped believing in: a future worth the risk of surrender. Rain hammered against the metal roof of the bus shelter, drowning out Ava Mitchell's exhausted sigh as she watched the last bus of the night flash out of service before disappearing into the downpour. 5 miles lay between her and the cramped apartment where Mrs. Guzman from 3B was watching 6-year-old Lily. Perfect, she muttered, checking her phone. 11:42 p.m., battery at 8%. No rideshare services available in this part of town. The diner's grease still clung to her uniform, mingling with the rain that had soaked through her threadbare jacket. Her feet ached in waterlogged shoes, blisters forming where cheap material rubbed against skin. Lightning flashed, illuminating the deserted street. No taxis, no other buses, just Ava, her empty wallet, and the storm. She stepped out from the shelter, resigned to the long walk, when headlights cut through the darkness. Not the harsh fluorescence of public transportation, but something softer, more deliberate. A black car approached, its engine purring with quiet authority. Not just any car, the kind that belonged in downtown business districts. Not on this forgotten corner of the city. The vehicle slowed as it reached her, water cascading off its polished surface. Tinted windows revealed nothing of the occupants. But Ava felt the weight of observation. Her spine stiffened, instincts sharpening despite her exhaustion. The rear window lowered with electric precision, revealing darkness and the silhouette of a man. His features remained in shadow, but his presence filled the space between them. Controlled power, watchful silence. "You shouldn't be out in this," a voice said, deep and measured, neither friendly nor threatening, just certain. Ava took an instinctive step back. "I'm fine." "You're soaked," the voice countered, matter of fact. "And it's getting worse." Another flash of lightning confirmed his assessment, followed by thunder that seemed to shake the pavement beneath her feet. "I can take you home," the man said, not a question, but not quite a command. No one should walk 5 miles in this. Ava's breath caught. How did he know how far she had to go? "I don't accept rides from strangers," Ava said, clutching her bag tighter against her side. The window lowered further, revealing the man inside. Tailored suit, dark hair touched with silver at the temples. Features carved from authority and restraint. A heavy ring glinted on his right hand, catching what little light penetrated the storm. "Dante Rossi," he offered, as if his name should mean something. Perhaps it did, in circles Ava never entered. Now we're not strangers. Lightning flashed again, closer this time. The thunder that followed was immediate, violent. "How do you know where I live?" she demanded, rain streaming down her face. His expression didn't change. "I don't, but the bus route suggests the Parkview district. And you've been on your feet for at least 8 hours. His eyes, dark and observant, moved over her diner uniform. "Lily's waiting for you, isn't she?" Ice replaced the rain in Ava's veins. "How do you know my daughter's name?" "You have a necklace," he said simply, nodding toward the small gold pendant visible at her throat. "L for Lily. You touch it when you're anxious, like now." Ava's fingers flew to the necklace, a gift from her grandmother, the only piece of jewelry she'd never pawned during the lean months. "I'm not going to hurt you," Dante continued, his voice level. "But that storm will. Your phone is nearly dead. The temperature is dropping. Mrs. Guzman needs to get home to her own family. Another shock. He even knew her babysitter." Ava glanced up at the black sky, then down the empty street. Her options were non-existent. Her daughter was waiting. "Just a ride," she said finally, more to herself than to him. The door opened. Inside, the car was larger than it appeared. Red leather seats, the smell of expensive cologne, and something darker, like power distilled. As she slid in, she noticed another man in the front passenger seat, broad-shouldered, silent, a barely concealed weapon visible beneath his jacket. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click. "Thank you," she said stiffly, keeping to the far edge of the seat. Dante studied her, his gaze neither predatory nor kind, just assessing. "Give Marco your address." The driver nodded in the rearview mirror, waiting. Ava swallowed hard and provided her building number, aware with each passing moment that she'd stepped into a world where different rules applied, rules she didn't know, controlled by a man who somehow already knew too much about her. Ava didn't remember falling asleep. One moment she was rigid against the door of Dante's car. The next she was being gently shaken awake as they pulled up to her apartment building. The rain had slowed to a steady drizzle, but lightning still illuminated the night in sporadic flashes. "We're here," Dante said, his voice somehow softer in the confined space. She blinked, disoriented. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You're exhausted. Go get some rest." As the driver opened her door, Ava caught Dante watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Not quite concern, not quite curiosity. Something deeper, more complex. "Thank you for the ride," she said, stepping out into the damp night. He nodded once. "Good night, Ava." She hurried into her building, aware of the car remaining at the curb until she was inside. Mrs. Guzman left with grateful thanks and a tired smile. Lily slept peacefully, unaware of her mother's strange encounter. Ava checked the ancient fuse box. It had been making that clicking sound again, before collapsing into bed, still in her damp clothes. Hours later, the smell woke her, acrid, choking. Smoke poured through the crack beneath her door. Alarms blared, distant and muffled. Ava lunged for Lily's room, her lungs burning, vision blurring. Her daughter's small form was warm and limp in her arms as she staggered toward the door, only to find the hallway engulfed in flames. "Help!" she screamed, retreating back into the apartment. "Somebody help us." The window, their only hope. Ava stumbled toward it. Lily clutched against her chest. Her fingers fumbled with the latch as smoke filled her lungs. The last thing she remembered was a tremendous crash, the window exploding inward, and dark figures moving through the smoke toward them. Then nothing but darkness. In her unconsciousness, she dreamed of being carried through fire, of a voice commanding others to move faster, of her daughter's weight being lifted from her arms with unexpected gentleness, of a man's face, illuminated by flames, watching her with fierce intensity as the world burned around them. Ava woke to silence and softness, both equally disorienting. No sirens, no shouting, no crackling flames, just hushed luxury. Sunlight filtering through gauzy curtains, and sheets that felt like liquid against her skin. Lily. The name tore from her throat as she bolted upright, panic flooding her system. The bedroom door opened immediately, revealing a man in a dark suit, not Dante, but someone with the same controlled presence. "Ms. Mitchell, you're safe. Your daughter is downstairs having breakfast. Where am I? Who are you?" Ava demanded, clutching the unfamiliar silk robe she now wore to her chest. Someone had changed her clothes while she was unconscious. "Mr. Rossi's residence. I'm Stefan, head of security." His tone was professional, not threatening, but his posture made it clear he wouldn't be moved. "The doctor said you should rest, but if you insist on seeing your daughter, I can escort you downstairs." Ava didn't wait for further explanation. She pushed past him, following the hallway's plush carpet to a sweeping staircase. The house, no, mansion, unfolded around her. Soaring ceilings, artwork worth more than she'd earned in decades, security cameras, disguised as decorative elements. She heard Lily's laugh before she saw her, that bright, uninhibited sound that always loosened something in Ava's chest. Following it to a sunlit kitchen, she froze in the doorway. Her daughter sat at a marble island, happily devouring pancakes shaped like butterflies. Across from her, Dante Rossi sipped coffee, watching the child with unexpected gentleness as she described something with animated hands. "Mommy," Lily spotted her, face lighting up. "Mr. Dante made me special pancakes, And look at my new clothes. Dante rose smoothly, his eyes meeting Ava's over her daughter's head. Good morning. How are you feeling? What happened? Ava demanded, pulling Lily against her. Why are we here? There was a fire in your building, he said, his calm at odds with the gravity of his words. The electrical system finally gave out. My men were monitoring the situation and pulled you both out when it became clear emergency services wouldn't arrive in time. Monitoring, Ava repeated, her voice sharpening. Why would your men be watching my building? Something flickered in his expression, a decision being made. Because I was concerned about its safety, and I was right to be. Mr. Dante says we can stay here until our house is better, Lily piped up, oblivious to the tension. Ava met Dante's steady gaze, understanding dawning with cold clarity. We're not staying. We're leaving right now. I'm afraid that's not possible, he replied softly. Your building is gone, Ava. Everything in it. You have nowhere else to go. I want to show you something, Dante said after breakfast, once Lily had been settled in a playroom with an attentive nanny who appeared at his merest gesture. Ava followed him reluctantly through the mansion's west wing, noting the subtle security measures. Cameras disguised as light fixtures, men in suits positioned at key junctures. Reinforced windows that probably cost more than her annual salary. They entered his study, a room of dark wood, leather-bound books, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured grounds, surrounded by a high stone wall. This is the fire marshal's preliminary report, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Electrical failure in the main panel. The building had been cited 3 times in the past year for code violations. Ava flipped through the pages, her stomach sinking. How did you get this? It happened hours ago. I have connections in the department. He didn't elaborate, didn't need to. Who are you, really? She asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Dante studied her for a moment before reaching a decision. My family has controlled certain aspects of this city's economy for 3 generations. We have interests in construction, waste management, shipping, and private security. The elegant euphemisms didn't fool her. Your Mafia. I prefer businessman with unconventional methods, he replied, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. But yes, most people would use that term. Fear should have been her primary reaction. But instead, Ava felt an unexpected flare of anger. And what? You decided to add us to your collection, rescue the damsel and her kid as some kind of power trip? His expression hardened. I don't collect people, Ava. I protect what matters. We don't matter to you. You don't even know us. I know enough. He moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. I know you work 60-hour weeks between the diner and night cleaning. I know you haven't bought anything for yourself in over a year. I know your ex disappeared when you told him you were pregnant. The intimate knowledge of her life sent a chill down Ava's spine. You've been watching me. Yes. The simple admission disarmed her momentarily. No denials, no justifications. Why? She demanded. He turned, and something in his gaze made her breath catch. Intensity in something else. Something almost like hunger, but more controlled, more dangerous. Because something about you wouldn't let me look away. The air between them seemed to thicken, charged with an energy that Ava refused to name. She was acutely aware of his presence. The breadth of his shoulders beneath his impeccable suit, the strength in his hands, the way his eyes never left hers. I should check on Lily, she said finally, breaking the spell. He nodded once. Of course, but Ava, his voice stopped her at the door. There are things you don't understand yet, things I need to explain. When you're ready. 3 days passed in uneasy truce. Ava watched her daughter bloom in this strange environment, delighting in the garden, the endless supply of books, the attention of staff, who appeared to genuinely enjoy her company. It would be easy to surrender to this comfort, this safety. Too easy. While exploring the East Wing during Lily's afternoon nap, Ava discovered a small sitting room. Unlike the rest of the mansion's impersonal perfection, this space felt lived in, personal. Photos lined the mantel, Dante younger, smiling more freely, an older couple who shared his features, and at the center, in a silver frame, a woman. Ava's hand trembled as she lifted the photograph. The resemblance was uncanny. The same dark hair, similar features, even the same stubborn set to the chin. The woman could have been her sister, her twin. Her name was Isabella. Ava whirled around to find Dante in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Your sister?" she asked, though she already knew. "Yes." He crossed to her, taking the frame with careful hands. "She died 8 years ago. Her husband was involved with people who didn't appreciate his debts. He couldn't pay with money, so they took something else." Horror washed through Ava. "They killed her, both of them. Isabella and her daughter Sophia. She was 4. His voice remained steady, but his knuckles whitened around the frame. "I was overseas on business. By the time I returned, it was too late." The pieces clicked into terrible clarity. "That's why you've been watching me, because I look like her." "Initially, yes," he admitted. "But—" Nova backed away, anger rising like a tide. "I'm not your second chance. I'm not your redemption project. My daughter and I aren't replacements for the family you couldn't save." Pain flashed across his features before his control reasserted itself. "That's not what this is, isn't it?" She gestured to the mansion around them. "The clothes in exactly our sizes. The room decorated just like a 6-year-old would want. The way you watch Lily, like she might disappear. You're trying to rewrite history with us as stand-ins. You're wrong." His voice dropped lower, intensity radiating from him in waves. "The resemblance caught my attention. Yes, but what kept it was you. Your strength, your determination. The way you'd walk 5 miles in a storm rather than compromise your independence." Ava shook her head, unwilling to be swayed. "I want the insurance money for our apartment. Then we're leaving. Today." "The insurance company has already processed your claim," Dante said, sliding an envelope across his desk later that afternoon. "I expedited it." Ava opened the envelope, her eyes widening at the check inside, far more than her meager possessions had been worth. "This isn't right. I made sure they accounted for everything, including items with sentimental value." "You mean you padded the claim?" She pushed the envelope back toward him. "I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's what you're owed." His voice remained calm, but tension radiated from his shoulders. The building owner cut corners on safety for years. His negligence could have killed you both. Ava hesitated, thinking of what this money could mean. A fresh start, a better apartment, maybe even a few months' breathing room from the constant financial pressure. "Take it, Ava," Dante said softly, "for Lily." The mention of her daughter weakened her resolve. "Fine. But this doesn't mean we're staying. Where will you go?" "I'll find a place. In this city. With rental prices what they are. Even with that check. You'll be back to working double shifts within months. That's my problem, not yours." She stood, preparing to leave. "Why are you so determined to struggle when you don't have to?" Frustration edged into his voice for the first time. "Because I won't trade my independence for security, not even for Lily." What lesson would that teach her? That we should depend on a man's charity, that our freedom has a price tag. "Is that what you think this is?" Dante rose, moving around the desk until he stood before her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the controlled fury in his eyes. "You think I want to own you, don't you?" She met his gaze unflinchingly. "Isn't that what men like you do? Collect debts, collect businesses, collect people." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in his perfect control. "Not you, never you." The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them charged with something dangerous and electric. His hand moved, almost unconsciously, toward hers. Ava felt herself swaying forward, drawn by a gravity she refused to acknowledge. Their fingers hovered inches apart, then simultaneously, both pulled back. "I've arranged for a car to take you to see some apartments tomorrow," Dante said, his professional mask sliding back into place. "Safe neighborhoods, good schools. The rental agreements are ready to sign if you find one you like." The abrupt shift left Ava disoriented. "Thank you," she managed. "One more night," he continued. "Stay one more night, and tomorrow you can start fresh, wherever you choose." She nodded, unable to articulate the conflicting emotions churning inside her. Relief at her imminent freedom, and something dangerously close to disappointment. At the door she paused. "Dante, yes." The words died on her lips. What could she possibly say? That for a moment. She'd wanted to know what his touch felt like, that despite everything. She'd grown accustomed to his presence, his quiet strength. "Nothing," she said finally. "Good night." The security footage played on the study's large monitor, grainy but unmistakable. Ava watched herself serving coffee at the diner, unaware of the man observing from a corner booth. Her ex, Ryan, whom she hadn't seen in nearly 7 years. "When was this taken?" she asked, her voice tight. 3 weeks ago, Dante replied, standing behind his desk. "Keep watching." The footage changed. Ryan outside Lily's school, then meeting with a group of men in an alley. One man's face was clearly visible, harsh features, expensive suit, a distinctive scar across his jaw. "That's Victor Kane," Dante said. "My chief competitor in certain markets. He and I have unresolved differences." "What does that have to do with Ryan?" "Kane recruited him 6 months ago, after learning of your connection. Ryan has been following you, documenting your routines, your vulnerabilities." Cold fear settled in Ava's stomach. "Why?" "Because Kane saw an opportunity." Dante's voice hardened. "My men noticed Ryan's surveillance and began monitoring him in turn. That's how I became aware of you." "The night of the storm," Ava said slowly. "You said your men were watching my building." "Yes." "Ryan had arranged to meet you there, supposedly by chance, after all these years. He was going to offer help, reconnection, perhaps even financial support for Lily. I would never have trusted him. Eventually, you might have. Single mother, struggling financially, a daughter who's never known her father. These are powerful leverage points." Dante switched to the final footage. Ryan speaking with a man who handed him something small. This was taken the night of the fire. Realization dawned with sickening clarity. "Are you saying Ryan started the fire? To what? Force me to accept his help? To create a crisis that would make you vulnerable?" "My men intercepted one of his associates that night, which is why I was in the area. When we saw the fire starting, we moved in." Ava sank into a chair, mind reeling. "So this whole time I've been..." "What?" "A pawn in some twisted game between you and Kane." "Not a pawn," Dante said sharply. "A target. Kane discovered my interest in you and decided to exploit it. If he had gotten to you first, you and Lily would now be hostages in his war against me." The implications were staggering. "And the apartments you arranged for tomorrow all have security systems and are monitored by my people." "But even with those precautions," he hesitated, "Kane is persistent, and Ryan knows your patterns, your weaknesses. So I'm trapped," Ava whispered. "Stay here under your protection, or risk my daughter's safety out there." Dante moved around the desk, kneeling before her chair to meet her eyes. "I will never hold you here against your will. But yes, those are the choices." She looked at him. This dangerous man who had saved them, protected them, and now offered an impossible choice. "Why are you doing this?" "The truth this time. Because I couldn't save Isabella," he said quietly. "But I can save you. Higher, Mr. Dante, higher." Lily squealed, her small hands gripping the swing's chains as Dante pushed her toward the blue autumn sky. From the terrace, Ava watched their interaction with complicated emotions. 2 weeks had passed since the revelation about Ryan and Kane. 2 weeks of adjusting to this strange new reality, where danger lurked beyond the estate's walls while inside. An unexpected domesticity had taken root. "She's quite taken with him," Stefan observed, appearing silently beside Ava with a cup of coffee. Prepared exactly as she liked it, a small detail that highlighted how closely they'd all been watching her. "Children are easily impressed by attention and pancakes," Ava replied, but without the edge that would have colored such a comment days earlier. "The boss doesn't spend time with anyone's children, ever." Stefan's tone suggested this was significant. "He's different with you both." Below, Dante was showing Lily how to pump her legs to swing herself. His usual severity had softened, replaced by patient instruction, and the ghost of a smile when she succeeded. "He's still keeping us as protected assets," Ava said, more to convince herself than Stefan. "Is that what you think?" The security chief raised an eyebrow. "The boss has other properties, safer ones, more isolated. If you were just assets, you'd be there, not in his personal residence." The implication hung in the air as Stefan departed, leaving Ava to consider the shifting dynamics between herself and Dante. Their interactions had evolved from tense confrontations to something more complex. Meals shared in comfortable silence, late-night conversations in his study. Moments when his guard lowered enough to reveal glimpses of the man beneath the power. She'd begun to recognize his patterns. The slight furrow between his brows when he was concerned, the way he absently touched the scar on his left hand when deep in thought, how his voice softened imperceptibly when speaking to Lily. Most dangerous of all, she'd caught herself watching for these details, cataloging them, finding comfort in their familiarity. When Dante looked up from the swing and caught her eye, the quiet acknowledgement that passed between them sent warmth spreading through her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the autumn sun, and everything to do with the growing realization that she no longer viewed this fortress as a prison. The alarm sliced through the night, not the blaring wail Ava might have expected, but a low, pulsing tone that seemed designed to alert without terrifying. Still, its effect was immediate. She bolted upright in bed, heart hammering against her ribs. Her bedroom door opened before she could reach it. Dante stood in the hallway, transformed from the man she'd come to know into something harder, colder, a commander in his element. "Get Lily," he instructed, voice calm but brooking no argument. "Bring her to the master suite, now." Ava didn't waste time with questions. She rushed to her daughter's room, gathering the sleeping child into her arms. Lily stirred, but didn't fully wake, accustomed by now to being carried. The hallway had come alive with controlled movement, security personnel with weapons drawn, moving with practiced precision. Stefan spoke into a radio, his free hand guiding Ava toward the master bedroom at the end of the corridor. Inside, Dante was accessing a panel hidden behind a painting. The wall beside his bed slid open, revealing a reinforced room. A safe room, Ava realized, with monitors showing camera feeds from around the property. "Perimeter breach at the east gate," Stefan reported. 6 individuals armed. "They've disabled the first layer of security cameras, but the backups caught them." "Kane's men?" Dante asked, helping Ava settle Lily on a cot inside the safe room. "Yes, and Mitchell is with them." "Ryan." Ava's blood ran cold. "Lock down the house," Dante ordered. "Protocol Epsilon. No one gets past the inner perimeter." He turned to Ava, his expression softening fractionally. "Stay here. The room is bulletproof, with its own ventilation and communication system. You'll be safe." "And you?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, at her concern. "I'll handle this." He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek in the briefest of touches. "I won't let them near you or Lily, I promise." Then he was gone, the safe room door sealing behind him, with a pneumatic hiss, leaving Ava alone with her sleeping daughter, and the security monitors that showed dark figures moving across the grounds. She gathered Lily close, the child's steady heartbeat a counterpoint to her own racing pulse. On the screens, she watched Dante move through the house, issuing commands, a weapon now visible at his side. His expression was one she'd never seen before, cold, focused, lethal. This was the man the world feared, she realized. The man she'd been afraid of becoming dependent upon. And now, watching him prepare to defend them, she found herself praying for his safety with an intensity that shocked her. Dawn broke over the estate, pale light filtering through the safe room's ventilation system. Ava hadn't slept, her eyes gritty from watching the security monitors all night. Lily had woken briefly, asking sleepy questions that Ava answered with gentle lies about a game of hide-and-seek. The communication panel beeped. "Ms. Mitchell." Stefan's voice came through, steady despite the night's events. "It's clear now. You can come out." The door unsealed with a soft click. Ava emerged cautiously, Lily still drowsy in her arms. The hallway showed no signs of violence, but the atmosphere had changed. More security personnel, faces grim with purpose. "Where's Dante?" she asked, following Stefan downstairs. "In his study. He asked to see you once you were ready." Ava settled Lily with the nanny, instructing them to stay in the playroom, before making her way to the study. She paused at the door, steeling herself before knocking softly. "Come in." Dante sat behind his desk, his pristine appearance at odds with the exhaustion evident in his posture. A cut above his eyebrow had been recently cleaned, the only visible sign of the night's confrontation. "Are you all right?" she asked, crossing to him without thinking. "I've had worse." The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You and Lily." "We're fine. What happened?" "Kane's men attempted to breach the property. They failed." His tone left no doubt about the outcome. Ryan was with them, as expected. He's been dealt with. Ava didn't ask for details. Some things were better left unknown. And Kane, he's received my message. Dante's eyes hardened. This particular threat has been neutralized. But I won't pretend the danger is completely gone. My world comes with complications. "I'm beginning to understand that," she said quietly. He studied her, searching for something in her expression. "You're not afraid." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "Not of you. Not anymore." The admission hung between them, changing the air in the room. Dante rose from his chair, moving around the desk until he stood before her, close enough that she could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "You should be," he said softly. "I'm not a good man, Ava." "Maybe not," she replied, holding his gaze. "But you're a man who keeps his promises. You protected us." "Always," he whispered, the word carrying the weight of an oath. The terrace overlooked gardens bathed in sunset, the autumn air crisp, but not yet cold. Ava stood at the stone balustrade, watching Lily explore the maze of hedges below, always within sight of 2 watchful security guards. Footsteps approached. Dante's, she knew without looking. She'd learned to recognize his tread, just as she'd learned so many other details about him in the weeks since the attack. "The real estate agent called," he said, joining her at the railing. "The apartment you liked is still available. Completely renovated. Security system installed." Ava nodded, her throat unexpectedly tight. The apartment represented what she'd wanted so desperately when she first arrived. Freedom, independence, a life unentangled with Dante Rossi and his complicated world. "I've had the papers drawn up," he continued, his voice carefully neutral. "You and Lily could move in next week." "Is that what you want?" she asked, finally turning to face him. His expression remained guarded. "What I want doesn't matter. I promised you wouldn't be a prisoner here. That's not what I asked." Something shifted in his eyes, vulnerability breaking through his careful control. "No," he admitted quietly. "It's not what I want." The simple honesty of his answer made her breath catch. "I don't want to leave," she confessed, the words both terrifying and freeing. "Not yet." "Ava, let me finish," she interrupted gently. "I'm not staying because I need your protection, or because Lily loves this place, although both are true. I'm staying because—" She paused, gathering courage. "Because I want to know what this is between us, what it could be." Dante's composure faltered, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. "My world is dangerous, complicated. So is mine," she countered. "Single mother, no family support, barely making ends meet. That's its own kind of dangerous. I can't promise you a normal life. I'm not asking for normal." She took a step closer to him. "I'm asking for real, for a chance." He studied her face, searching for doubt or fear, and finding none. "For how long?" "I don't know," she answered honestly. "For now." "Is that enough?" His smile, rare and genuine, was her answer. "For now," he agreed. "It's everything. Mommy, can Mr. Dante come to my career day at school?" Lily asked over breakfast, a month after they'd decided to stay. "Joey's bringing his dad, who's a firefighter, and Emma's mom is a doctor, but Mr. Dante's job is way cooler." Ava nearly choked on her coffee. "Sweetheart, I don't think." "I'd be honored," Dante interrupted smoothly, "but I'm afraid I have meetings that day. Perhaps another time." Lily's disappointment lasted only seconds before she bounced back, chattering about her new school, an exclusive private academy, where security guards disguised as maintenance staff ensured her safety. After she ran off to get ready, Ava raised an eyebrow at Dante. A Mafia boss at career day. That would certainly be memorable. "I prefer businessman with diverse interests," he reminded her with a hint of a smile. "Though I doubt the other parents would appreciate my career advice. Always negotiate from a position of strength, children, and remember that loyalty is rewarded, while betrayal is not." Despite herself, Ava laughed. These moments had become more frequent, glimpses of dry humor beneath his serious exterior. Shared jokes that felt like small victories. "We need to talk about boundaries," she said, sobering. "Lily's getting attached to you. Is that a problem?" "It could be." Ava chose her words carefully. Whatever this is between us, undefined. And she's already lost one father figure. Dante considered this, his expression thoughtful. What boundaries would make you comfortable? The question surprised her, not the consideration behind it, which she'd come to expect, but the willingness to adjust his world to accommodate hers. No expensive gifts without checking with me first, she began. No undermining my parenting decisions, even when you disagree. And she hesitated. No promises to her that we can't keep. Agreed, he said without hesitation. Anything else? Ava took a deep breath. This thing between us, it needs to develop at its own pace. No pressure, no expectations. Something warm flickered in his eyes. This thing between us? You know what I mean, she said, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. I do. He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers, respecting the invisible line they'd yet to cross. And I can be a very patient man, Ava, when something matters. The unspoken implication hung in the air. You matter. The charity gala sparkled with wealth and influence. Crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing freely, power disguised as philanthropy. Ava felt conspicuous in her borrowed elegance. A midnight blue gown that fit perfectly. Of course it did. Dante left nothing to chance. Diamonds at her throat that she'd initially refused, until he explained they were on loan from the jeweler sponsoring the event. Senator Hargrove, Dante murmured, guiding her with a light touch at the small of her back. Votes on the harbor development next month. Be charming. But don't mention the South Side project. Ava smiled and nodded at the portly man approaching them, slipping seamlessly into the role she'd been practicing. Not quite Dante's partner, but certainly more than his guest. She'd become adept at these performances, learning to navigate the complex social waters of his world, while maintaining her own identity beneath the surface. Later, as the orchestra played and couples filled the dance floor, Dante extended his hand to her. May I? They'd never danced together before. It felt like crossing a threshold. His hand settled at her waist, warm through the thin fabric of her gown. Her palm rested against his shoulder, feeling the solid strength beneath his tailored jacket. They moved together with unexpected harmony. You're full of surprises, she said softly. I wouldn't have pegged you for a dancer. My mother insisted. She said power without grace was just brutality. His lips curved slightly. She would have liked you. Because I don't let you get away with anything. Because you see beyond what I am to who I could be. The simple honesty of his words caught her off guard. In these moments, rare unguarded, she glimpsed the man behind the power, the vulnerability he showed to no one else. They turned slowly, bodies drawing imperceptibly closer with each revolution. His thumb traced a small circle against her back, perhaps unconsciously. Her fingers curled slightly into the fabric of his jacket. Dante, she began, not knowing what she meant to say, only that something was shifting between them, something that had been building for months. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, seeking permission, offering choice. The music swelled around them. One step closer, and there would be no space left between them at all. Not here, she whispered, though everything in her yearned to close that final distance. Not yet. He nodded once, understanding and accepting her boundary without question. But his eyes promised that not yet did not mean not ever. The file landed on the kitchen table, one Tuesday morning, plain manila, unmarked except for a date. Inside were college brochures, financial aid forms, and a handwritten note. For when you're ready, your choice any program. What's this? Ava asked, looking up as Dante entered with his usual cup of black coffee. You mentioned wanting to finish your degree, he said simply, before Lily was born. The casual reference to a dream she'd mentioned once, months ago, during a late-night conversation. The fact that he'd remembered, had taken action without being asked, left her momentarily speechless. I can't accept this, she said finally, though with less conviction than she once would have shown. You can. He sat across from her. It's not charity, Ava. It's investment in potential. Your potential. She studied him. This complex man who commanded an empire of shadow, yet ensured Lily's favorite cereal was always stocked, who could order violence with a nod, yet spent hours helping Ava prepare for her GED exams. Why do you do these things? She asked softly, He considered her question with characteristic thoughtfulness. When I was younger, I believed power was its own justification. That strength meant never yielding, never questioning the path my father laid out. His fingers traced the edge of the file. I've done things I can't undo, made choices that can't be unmade. And now I understand that true strength lies in choice, in using power to create rather than control. He met her gaze directly. You've shown me that. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Ava reached across the table, covering his hand with hers, a deliberate breach of the careful distance they'd maintained. This is what redemption looks like, she said quietly. Not grand gestures or complete transformation, just small choices, day after day, to be better than you were before. His fingers turned, interlacing with hers. Is that enough? The question contained multitudes, about his past, their future, the possibility of forgiveness. It's a beginning, she answered, and felt the truth of it settle between them like a promise. Winter descended on the estate, transforming the gardens into crystalline sculptures. 6 months had passed since that rainy night at the bus stop. 6 months of gradual metamorphosis from strangers to reluctant allies to something neither had names for. Ava stood in Dante's study, watching snow fall beyond the windows. Behind her, he worked quietly, the scratch of his pen and occasional rustle of papers, the only sounds breaking the comfortable silence they'd learned to share. I got accepted, she said, turning to face him, to the business program. Classes start next month. He looked up, genuine pleasure warming his expression. Congratulations. I'll need childcare for Lily when I'm in class. Already arranged, he replied. If that's acceptable. She smiled, recognizing the careful deference to her independence. A boundary he'd respected without fail, even as others, had gradually dissolved between them. Thank you, she said, crossing to his desk. Not just for this, for everything. He set down his pen, rising to meet her. You never needed my help, Ava. You would have found your way without me, maybe. But this way has been. She searched for the right word, unexpected, in the best possible way. They stood facing each other, months of unspoken feelings suspended in the air between them. No more pretenses, no more careful distance. I'm still who I am, he said quietly. That won't change. My world, my responsibilities. I know. She stepped closer. I'm not asking you to be someone else, just as you've never asked me to be less than I am. His hand lifted slowly, giving her every chance to step away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed her cheek with a gentleness that belied his strength. This won't be easy, he murmured. Nothing worthwhile ever is. She leaned into his touch, her own hand rising to cover his. But I think we're both strong enough for difficult. When his lips finally met hers, it felt less like surrender and more like recognition of the truth that had been growing between them all along. Not possession or dependence, but partnership. Not safety at the cost of freedom, but strength found in vulnerability, freely offered. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the estate in pristine white, a blank page on which they would write their story, one day at a time, together.